Hello everyone. We're now continuing with project number 3. What you're looking at now is the lingual view, maxillary and mandibular. I just wanted you to see, because most of you have a habit of looking at the occlusion or looking at the facial, but rarely looking at the lingual, which is probably the most important part of the teeth and usually neglected. So if you can see this clearly, you'll see the interdigitation on the maxillary and mandibulars. So let me go through for a second in the book. We're going from page 80 through the text of the book, rest of the book, to about page 93. If you double back to page 80 as you're preparing, you can see each step, and I want you to do it in this order. If not, you're going to have a lot of problems and it'll just get carried away. You're going to do one cusp at a time. Don't jump back and forth, and you can slowly move through the project. And eventually it all comes together in the end. No different than project 1 or 2, except you do not have a counter. So probably my favorite pages are 90 and 91. Here you can see all the maxillary contacts, you can see all the mandibular contacts, and you can see the relation of the two with the transparency. Then when you go on, here's your final project. So let's just double back, because I don't think I'm going to finish this, but I want you to see where I've gone to since the last video. So here on the mandibular teeth, as we were discussing before, quickly drew the red line, both sides, marked a red dot where we thought the cusps were going to go, the orientation points, added a little bit of hot white wax so everything will stick. Then we placed the individual cones on upper and lower teeth. We then closed the articulator to make sure there was no premature contact, that in all excursive movements, the tips are still there. Once we did that, that's where the video ended. Then I came, next step, I went in, and remember I suggested doing the lingual first, because if you do the buccal, you're not going to be able to see anything when you look in this direction. So at least it's giving you a little window of opportunity. We then went on to the red wax. This is no different than project 1 and 2. We went on, did the red, but remember I said when you do something on the lower, immediately do the corresponding on the upper. So I went up, down, up, down, up, down. Every so often, just for the heck of it, take your master model. This is a double check to make sure that the occlusion was not too high. You can check the maxillary, then take the lower, put it together. You can check the mandibular, then go back, keep going. Once the red wax is finished, which are the cusps, we then went into the line and point angles with the blue wax. Again, up and down, not back and forth. Once the blue was done, the last step I did was the marginal ridges. And if you look at the textbook, remember on the maxillary, the marginal ridges, the contact is mesial, 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 mesial. And on the mandibular, the contact is distal, 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 distal. So that's what I established. And at that point, you know your cusps are the right height, because if not, this all would have been damaged. So I did not do 2. Remember I said you do these 1 at a time. So once I did all of the distals, and I've completed the distals on the lower, and I've completed the mesials, now my next step would be to make the one next to it match. And again, this is exactly what we've done in 1 and 2, so there's nothing new here. So I would now come over and do the mesial marginal ridges on each. Then on the upper, I would do the distal marginal ridges on each. Once I have that, I can actually start moving through the triangular ridges, because I have not touched the facial side yet. I've only been slowly progressing, moving forward on maxillary and mandibular. So what I would probably do now is I would come lingual, I would get the lingual triangular ridges, then I would do the same thing on the upper, then I would slightly move forward, and then ultimately I could do the buccal triangular ridges, finish it off, go through all the excursive movements, double check, take an instrument, just lightly carve the developmental grooves, take a piece of silk, lightly clean off, dry silk, then cotton and cold water, buff everything, and this case is done. This project will take you definitely 3 weeks to do. So I'm going to stop it now, and this will be the end of the videos, and the rest of it, the actual work, or the duplication of it, will be done in class. So good luck, everyone.